Women's International League for Peace and Freedom show, The Wake Up Call on WCOMLP, Chapel Hill and Carver, 103.5 on your FM dial, or live streaming at WCOMFM.org. You can also watch the show on the People's Channel after a week's delay on Thursday night at 10, Friday morning at 6, or Tuesday at noon. The show will also be available on our YouTube channel, Wake Up Call. I'm Ear Schwinzer here with our host, Lori Hoyt, and Emily O'Hare on the camera. Today our special guest is Anna O'Neill.
Thank you, Iris. We're here again, and it's a particularly hot Wednesday afternoon. I walked into the studio to get the tail end of Rob Westerman's music that's on every Wednesday from 4 to 5 just before us, and I want to give him a plug because he always plugs us, and he's on Mondays also from 4 to 5, and he plays wonderful mellow music. And I walked in here, it was 82 degrees. And so I found a fan that I thought was broken, but it seems to have been fixed. So that is saving the day for us. So we're delighted to be here, heat or not, and very particularly delighted to have Anna O'Neill, our guest. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I met Anna at church and also at Margaret's Cantina. And we got talking and found out that she's doing something very interesting. You want to tell us what it is?
Oh, I'd be happy to. I have an animal sanctuary. It's a nonprofit status. It's an official 501(c) nonprofit animal sanctuary. And I currently have 14 rescued animals. I have 8 potbelly pigs. I have 3 roosters. I have 2 guinea pigs and a dog.
Oh, well, you have more of a menagerie than I realized. I thought it was just little piggies.
Oh no, I also rescue roosters, and of course I have a dog I got from the pound in Wake County several years ago. And guinea pigs I also rescue, usually off of Craigslist when people are trying to dump them and find a home, but they don't care. And I use I go to Craigslist, and those animals can end up in bad hands, and so I will rescue guinea pigs as well.
Okay, well, so that's so interesting about potbelly pigs, because that was all the craze not that long ago. And I've heard that some of those potbelly pigs got to be bigger than people thought they were going to be. Is that part of the problem?
That is a big problem. That's exactly the problem. Potbelly pigs end up a lot of times in the shelters, and they come from breeders, especially. Breeders are, well, they're looking for money, and they're trying to sell them, and they misrepresent how big they're going to get in many cases. A lot of times you'll see advertisements for potbelly pigs, and especially on social media and the internet, you'll see little advertisements. You'll see this little pig running around with a little bow on his neck, and he's in the house, and he's jumping up on the couch, and he's behaving much like a dog, and he's very small. And the breeders are calling them, quote, teacup pigs, or little mini pigs, or micro pigs, and giving people false representation about how big they're going to be. I saw one advertisement one day where a breeder said, oh, this pig will get no more than 40 pounds. As a full adult, this pig will get no bigger than 40 pounds. Well, a pig that's under 40 pounds is a baby pig, is a young pig. Full adult-sized potbelly pigs get to be anywhere from about 150 to even 250 pounds.
When their genes are really potbelly, they can still get that big?
Yes, they've been bred. Breeders will selectively breed different kinds, and they try as hard as they can to breed very, very small, quote, teacup pigs, but they don't exist. A small pig is a baby pig. So what happens is a family will say, oh, yeah, let's get a little baby pig, a little teacup pig, and have him live in the house and behave like our dog, and then after several months or a year or two, all of a sudden they've got a 150-pound pig. A pig who has pig instincts, who wants to be outside rooting around and wallowing in mud. And what happens? many times those pigs end up in the shelters. And that's how many pigs are found homeless, because they end up in shelters because people are, they're misinformed about how big they're gonna be.
Well, what shelters, are you talking about? Dog shelters will take pigs?
Any animal shelter, the SPCA's, in fact, 2 of my pigs came from the Durham County SPCA.
Really?
They treat them a little differently in the way they adopt them out. I'm not sure about every shelter, but I know the Durham County shelter, they consider potbelly pigs to be livestock, so they actually auction them off as livestock. So you don't go in there and adopt them out like you would a dog or a cat, but they still adopt them out, but through a different process.
So if that pig has been brought up sort of with loving, tender care, it might all of a sudden find itself on a farm treated differently.
Yeah, and pigs are very emotional. They're very attached, and they're very smart. And if a family has a pig and says, you know what, this pig is 100 pounds more than I thought he was going to be, we can't keep him. We've got to dump him off at the shelter. Well, that pig is suddenly very upset and knows he's been abandoned. They're very smart.
Yeah.
They're very emotional. They have very sophisticated emotions, and they know when they're dumped. They know when they're scared. They know when they're happy. They know when they're loved. They have the most amazing just set of qualities that I've ever seen. I just watch them all day and how they interact with each other, and especially how they interact with my rooster. Well, I have 3 roosters. One of my roosters is Lester, and I've had him from the very beginning. And he's disabled now. He has nerve damage. He can't fly or stand up straight. But he has developed this amazing bond with the pigs, and I watch them interact with each other, and they all talk to each other all day, and they fight with each other, they love each other, they nudge each other, they lay with each other, they kick each other, they do everything that you would expect an emotional, highly intelligent being to do.
Wow, so they're family.
They're family, and they know it, and they protect each other. It's amazing. They have a lot of qualities that a dog would have. You know, they'll run up, and if you walk out, I have a barn with a big fenced-in area, and as soon as I walk out there, they all come running. Usually because they think I have food, but they wag their tails, and they'll come to you when you call them. They have similar personalities to dogs.
So how did you get involved in doing this? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well,
Been an animal lover, it sounds like, all your life.
I have always been an animal lover. I certainly wasn't exposed to pigs growing up. I grew up in Greenville, North Carolina, and we had dogs and cats, and I had a few goldfish, and we had hamsters, and the usual childhood animals, companion animals that you would have. And when I came here to Chapel Hill in '86 to go to college, I started getting involved in learning more about animal rights and factory farming, and really understanding the plight of animals, the animals that we're supposed to love and take care of. The sandwich that I'm eating, where did this come from? This was an animal, and what happened here, and understanding more about that. And I especially felt compassionate toward pigs, because they are so intelligent, and they are so social. And
Well, let me ask you something. Well, you said when you came to college, was this part of a college course, or just some people you met and exposure in that way? I mean, because not every college course is going to...
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, not college courses. I'm trying. That was so long ago. I don't even remember half the courses I took. But I think it's mostly just talking to people, and just getting more aware, and more just gaining knowledge as a person, and reading, and then I started. I visited a pig sanctuary, Pig Pals of North Carolina. It's a woman named Penny Jeffries. She
Where
has,
is that at?
she is currently located in Pittsboro, but at the time she had her sanctuary in Holly Springs, I believe. So I was living in Raleigh at the time, and I drove down and visited with her pigs and talked to her quite a bit, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I loved those pigs, and I said, you know, I'm gonna do this one day. I'm gonna have a sanctuary one day. I'm gonna do this, and I'm doing it now, but it took several years to get there. I remember one time I was at a conference and I was talking to a guy. I said, I'm gonna start an animal sanctuary, and he said, well, you can't just start a sanctuary, and he made me mad, and I said, I'm gonna prove him wrong. I can do this, but you know, it takes a lot of time and commitment and, well, money, and I decided after a few years of living, I moved back to Raleigh, and I was living there in the middle of town, and this is when I said, I'm gonna do this, and fortunately I was able to make a little money off my house in Raleigh, and I moved back here to Chapel Hill, just west of Carborough.
Were you working in Raleigh? What kind of work were you doing?
I have been a technical writer for about 20 years. I worked at IBM for 14 years, and that's what I was doing. I'm now working for another software company, working from home. Fortunately, I get to work from home during the day, so I can check on the animals. I wouldn't be able to do this if I had to go to work every day.
Yeah.
There's no way. But working from home, I'm able to check on them all day and feed and check on them and fill up waters, whatever I need to do. And I also part-time work at Margaret's Cantina as a server, and make a little extra money for the sanctuary, but also get pig scraps, get food, which saves me money, which saves me a lot of money actually. So I don't know how to thank Margaret's Cantina for all that they have helped me with the food and just allowing me to work and just part-time and being flexible with my schedule.
So you made up your mind you were gonna do it, but at that point you were living in downtown Raleigh.
Right. And I moved here. I found the most perfect little place, and I had to make sure that the property wasn't zoned for, I can't remember the actual wording, but when you look at the property description, you have to make sure that it's not, that you're not restricted and you're allowed to have, quote, livestock farm animals. And I found a property in White Cross, which is about 6 miles west of Carborough, and there were no restrictions. And it was mostly wooded, and pigs love woods. And there was no barn or fencing, so I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to fund that myself. So I moved in and was able to.
How long ago was that?
4 years ago.
Oh, not that long.
It wasn't that long ago. I actually just got my nonprofit status 3 years ago, so this is all new to me. But I started with 1 pig, then 2 pigs, then 3 pigs, and again now I'm up to 8 pigs. So, but it's been a process. I haven't adopted them or rescued them all at one time. It's always one at a time.
One at a time.
Right.
So you found a place, and then you had to build a barn.
Well, the good thing is, and actually Penny Jeffries from Pig Paws of North Carolina recommended this, just to buy one of those sheds that you find on the side of the road. In fact, in Pittsboro, I think it's just called Pittsboro Sheds or something like that on the side of the road. People use them for just, a shed, for a storage shed.
Yeah.
But I bought one of those and had it delivered and set up, and then I had a gentleman come and customize it. And he was able to put in stalls and cut out the doors so the pigs could come in and out, and ramps. So, and then a working area for me, so I walk in the door, and then I've got 3 stalls, but I've also got my working area that the pigs can't get into, because when I'm preparing their food, I need my space because they get really excited, and so if I don't have my own working space that's separated from them, we'd have a lot of problems. But I set up the food bowls and set it all up, and then I basically just handed over the side of the stalls for them. And they play musical bowls. They go from bowl to bowl and knock each other out of the way and grunt and oink and knock each other. It's a big frenzy when it's feeding time. But it's
there's stalls, but they can get in and out of each of the stalls.
yeah, they have, so each stall, there's a ramp that comes out of the stall from the outside, and then they have to go outside to get to the
Oh.
other stalls.
Oh,
And then
okay.
I've got part of my property fenced in. Believe it or not, fencing is extremely expensive. Even ugly fencing is really expensive. But
I'm
I've
not
got,
surprised.
I consulted a few people, and I was able to hire a nice guy to come and set it all up for me. It's basically hog panels with T-posts, and that's pretty sturdy, and he set it up so if the pig's knocked into it, it won't fall over you, and there's no way to dig under it either. So.
Mm.
What kind of material is it?
It's called hog panels. I know, no pun intended, but how do you explain it? It's just these long panels that you attach to these T-posts, and you
Ah.
insert the T-posts in the ground, and you've got to
So
tie
they're
them all
opaque,
together.
or are they opaque?
Oh no, you can see through them.
Oh, okay.
But they're not large enough that a pig can get through them, or a predator. So,
Oh, yeah.
and even the chickens. So.
Yeah. Okay, well so you got some good advice.
I did. I made sure that I talked to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and I feel like I feel really good. The barn is very sturdy. When I first moved in,
How big is it?
like
Dimension wise, is it
oh gosh,
16 by 16 or
I don't even know.
10 by 12?
It's 16 by 16 sounds right. It's
Okay.
pretty big, but it's not the
Not
biggest
huge,
that I
yeah.
could have gotten, but it was definitely not the smallest either.
Yeah.
It very comfortably holds 8 potbelly pigs, and then has room for my working station, and I probably could fit a couple more in there.
Uh-huh.
But again, I'm taking it slowly,
Uh-huh.
because when you introduce a new pig to the herd, it's a big process. When you introduce a new
Yeah.
pig, it's a lot of establishing hierarchy, and it's not like you just bring home a new pig and say, okay guys, here's your buddy, have fun, and
Yeah.
there's a lot, you have to keep them separated, and they take a while, at least a couple of weeks, to establish hierarchy, and there's a lot of biting and knocking over and screaming and yelling at each other during that process. So, but the barn is nice. Is a nice size. I wanted it to be large enough to, so that it was comfortable, and
Yeah.
it is, and I feel like I made a good decision with that.
Wow. So, so how did the roosters fit into this?
Well, Lester, I've had him since day one.
Of being
Having,
out in White Cross?
right. So what
He
happened?
found you? He stumbled
No.
on your doorstep? Or?
Somebody contacted me through a friend, and she said, I have a rooster. He's fighting with everybody. He's being mean all day, and I'm just gonna dump him in the woods, and I can't deal with him anymore. And I told my friend, I was like, oh gosh, I'm not really set up for chickens yet, but you know what, gosh, don't let her do that. Bring him over. And at that time, I had the barn, and he settled right in. And as I started adopting pigs, oh gosh, I mean, they just became friends immediately. And I was really worried about that. I was like, oh gosh, they're gonna be mean to him. They're gonna try to hurt him, or Lester's gonna fly off because he's scared. And it was the
No, I was
exact
worried
opposite.
about him hurting the pigs.
No.
knowing a little bit about roosters.
Yeah, they can get feisty for sure.
And yeah, the woman said he's fighting with everybody.
Right.
So I
Well,
thought,
I was worried. I really was, but it was an immediate friendship with
he's
all
smart.
of them.
He's smart.
He knew. He's like, it's either join him or I'm gonna get hurt here. So it's been great. He's and now that he's disabled, he's suffered nerve damage, and I've taken him to the vet. We don't know what happened. He could have flown the wrong way or
Yeah.
something, but he can't fly or walk or stand up. So I have to pick him up and put him in different places. In the barn, he sleeps at night with one of my pigs, Stella. And they sleep together. It's so cute. And during the day, I pick him up and I put him under, I call it his favorite tree because he likes to sit under. It's very shady. And he sits next to a water bowl. And then at night, I pick him back up and put him back in the barn. And of course, I feed him throughout the day as well. And he gets chopped grapes. He gets roasted peanuts. He gets honeydew, cantaloupe. He gets white rice. He gets corn off the cob. That chicken eats good. But I just rescued 2 other roosters just about, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. A gentleman contacted me from Sanford, and
How did they find out about you?
I asked him that. I said, "How did you know to contact me?" He says, "I have a friend of a friend who knew that you rescued animals, and I just took a chance and sent you an email." But he was renting a house in Sanford, and there was an old barn in the back, and he said, "There's these 2 roosters back there. They're just hanging out, and they don't look too good. They're missing feathers. They're really skinny." He says, I feed them sometimes, but I'm getting ready to move, and I don't know what to do with them." And I was like, "Oh gosh." So again, I said, "Bring them out." And now I do have a separate space with a chicken house that's inside of chicken wire. And so I've got those 2 roosters, Herman and Harvey. I've got them in there, and they're separated from Lester because I'm pretty sure they would fight. So, and because Lester's disabled, he's a sitting duck right now.
Yeah.
So he doesn't interact with the 2 new roosters.
Yeah.
But the 2 new roosters, Herman and Harvey, again, they eat so well. They're taken care of. They're loved, and they look so good now. They've got all their feathers back. They've gained weight. They look good. So I'm happy.
So that makes you feel good.
Yeah, it does. It does.
You're
It makes me
doing such good work, but what, now you're born, you have room for a couple more. Now, are you trying to foster these animals out, or you plan to keep them forever? And then what if you get asked to take them? What is the end result here? Or where does this go? Or does it go anywhere? Do you just stay put?
That's a great question. I wish I had a solid plan. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants a little bit. Again, I know for a fact that I'm taking this slow. But what is my end result? Well, that depends on my money situation. I'm funding this myself.
I was going to say, the name of it, I don't have your card right in front of me, but it's
Jenna and Friends Animal Sanctuary. I do get a few donations.
Who's Jenna?
Jenna was my dog. I lost her. A lot of people think my name is Jenna.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm Anna. And they're like, well, who's Jenna? Just like you asked me. Jenna, when I first moved to my home here in White Cross, I had a beautiful white dog named Jenna. And after being there just about 3 or 4 months, I lost her. And she passed away. She passed away. She was old. And she was my heart and soul. And this, about that time, I was thinking about, was getting the nonprofit status, and of course you have to have a name of your organization, and I had toyed with different names, and when I lost her, I said, okay, that's it, I'm gonna name it after her, and
so it's in her honor.
It's in her honor, so.
That's beautiful.
You're gonna make me cry.
Don't make me cry now. Oh, so, okay, so it's almost time for a station break, so we'll get ourselves together and have a station break.
This is Wolf's Wake Up Call on WCOMLP, Chapel Hill and Carrboro, 103.5 FM. You can stream us live at WCOMFM.org.
Thank you. I don't think we have any announcements. Emily, do you know of any? All I know is that we at the it's the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom is the sponsor for this show, and it's one of the oldest peace and justice organizations in the country, ongoing. I think the Fellowship for Reconciliation started the same year we did in 1915, but they had some breaks where they disbanded and reformulated, where although sometimes things were pretty slow, we kept going. And we are international. So our exciting news is that one of our Wilf sisters in Norway, and we keep forgetting we're international. You know, there's so much happening in this country and so much happening in this state that we get, you know, day by day caught up in that. And we forget, most of us, I think, do that we are international. So Lucy Lewis is one of our senior members, got an email from Oddgun from Norway, and she has relatives in Wilmington and wanted to come, found us on the internet, and so she's going to come and visit. So we're agog with thrill. So she's coming the 24th and 25th, and we wanted to have her on this show, but she felt, although her written English is very good, that her spoken English wasn't good enough to be on the radio show. So we're very disappointed. I don't know if we can do anything when we see her, but anyhow, we're all very excited. Going to have a potluck and all get together. So that's our exciting Wilf news. Of course, all the issues keep going on that Wilf is very involved in, like the Raging Grannies with immigration, the racism. We just, last night there was a equity meeting at the Chapel Hill Library with LaTondra Strong, who's worked on hate-free schools in Orange County, and she's been on our show, and I hope she'll be back in August. And she's been struggling with that issue. And because we're also with everything with the environment, that includes plants and animals, and so we're delighted particularly to have you, Anna, because we really haven't done a lot of shows, have we, Emily, about animals? We have had about the ocean and sustainable agriculture and things like that, but specifically focused on animals. And a lot of the churches around here are collaborating now on Earth Care, because I think it's dawning on everybody that we are in a crisis. And I think the churches have pretty ready-made audiences and they're really gearing up to. They've, I'm sure, been doing things, but now they're gearing up to intensify their efforts, and our church is part of it. So that's another big thing that Emily and I both went to on Monday night. So there's a lot of things going on. I don't have a particular thing to announce for people to go to right now, but next week we'll maybe have some other things to let you know about. But we're very glad we're having Anna O'Neill on, who lives not too far from here in the White Cross community, which is a really pretty drive right down 54 west of here. It's so different than 54 east. It's a country. For a long time it was just a country lane, and now of course they've added a few more stop signs and things, but where you live is still country. It's still country, and beautiful country. So, and in fact, I used to live on that road.
Small world.
Yeah. So, so we're talking about animals and what's happening. We can talk a little bit about what's happening with animals today. Part of where you got so invested in putting your whole self to rescue animals is because so many are mistreated. And, we mistreat people, so I guess it's not surprising that we mistreat animals. The human race is not doing too well by itself in terms of that legacy. So that you're doing your part. Are there any other places like you mentioned, this woman that's in Pittsburgh now, so she's doing a similar thing. I guess because the Potbelly pigs were such a craze, and that now they families couldn't keep them in their living room. But there are some wildlife sanctuaries too, aren't there?
There are, and I actually don't, I don't have a list in front of me, but it's funny that you mentioned that, because just today, a gentleman named Peter contacted me from Critter Carnival, and I had never heard of it before, but he has a local nonprofit organization where their mission is to increase awareness of animal rescues and organizations around town. In fact, they are planning an event at Southern Village on September the 14th. And it's called Critter Carnival.
September the 14th?
September the 14th, and Peter sent me an email, and he asked me if I would like to attend as one of the animal rescues represented there, and to basically just talk about what I'm doing, there's a lot of foot traffic in that particular area, and to possibly get some donations as well. And so he's like, so I need your logo, and you're gonna need a table and a banner, and I was like, oh gosh. So I have to scramble and get that kind of stuff put together pretty quickly, which I need to do anyway. But there are other organizations. I don't know if you've heard of Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge.
No.
That's actually a wonderful organization. It's my friend Lenore, and she has a piece of property that's, I don't know how large it is, but it's near Pittsburgh, off of Highway 87, I believe.
So it's called Piedmont
Farm Animal Refuge.
Refuge.
And she started this a few years ago, starting off, again, it's a process, building a shelter, starting with chickens, and then moving to turkeys, and now I believe she has goats, and eventually she's going to have pigs, and really being active in the animal rescue, farm animals in particular, not so much dogs and cats and companion animals, but farm animals that are traditionally in factory farms and treated horribly, living a miserable life, born just to be slaughtered and eaten, and really focusing on those animals in particular.
And where did you say she was located?
She's in right outside of Pittsburgh. I believe it's on Highway 87, but she has a website. If you Google Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge, she's just doing wonderful things in the community, not just rescuing animals, but also education.
That's so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. She has camps for children. She has potlucks. She sponsors vegan cooking classes. She sets up a booth. She has lots of volunteers. She sets up booths at various events to talk to people about farm animals and their plight, and what we can do as a society to recognize that, and just say, we shouldn't be treating our fellow our God's creatures like this. This is unacceptable, and we don't have to do that. We don't have to support this anymore.
I imagine when she cooks it's vegetarian.
Absolutely, yes, and not just vegetarian, but vegan, right, all plant-based, because a lot of people think that, the dairy industry is just absolutely horrendous. If you look at, a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm not eating the animal, I'm just drinking milk. But those animals are treated horribly. They live no life. Their babies are separated from their moms. They're impregnated with these horrible devices. It's really awful, and I try not to dwell on those things, because I'm sure I'm like a lot of other people. It's hard to hear, and it's hard to see. So I guess my mission in life is to try to reduce some of that suffering, even if it's just 14 animals right now. At least those animals, I know for a fact, love life, and are happy, and are loved and well fed, and they have no reason at all to be scared or or wondering where they're gonna get their next meal, so.
Yeah. And you're happy living with them.
I'm happy living with them. It's my mission in life is to take care of them. I can't imagine waking up every morning without a bunch of hungry mouths waiting for me to put food in them. And I absolutely love it. But yeah, when you asked me earlier about, well, what is your end goal? What do you want to do? Well, honestly, I want to keep growing.
I was just wondering that.
I have the property. I have almost 3 acres, and only a portion of it is fenced in.
Mm-hmm.
So I do get some donations through fundraising through Facebook. I do fundraising campaigns every quarter, and I get about $800 to $1,000 per quarter, and then the rest I fund myself.
So if people hearing this wanted to donate or check in when you're having your fundraising thing, so how do they, if they want more information, what's the best way?
The best way is to go to my website.
Okay.
It's Jenna and Friends Animal Sanctuary.org.
So Jenna, Jenna.
Jenna and spelled out A-N-D.
Oh, spell it out.
Jenna and Friends Animal Sanctuary.org. And if you go to a Google search and you just type in Jenna and Friends, it pops up pretty quickly. I guess I did my SEO right when I did my website, but it's right there, Jenna and Friends Animal Sanctuary. And I have a donation page there, right there on the page. Also, I have my neighbor Sarah Gress. She owns the North Carolina Crafts Gallery in Carrboro.
She owns what?
My neighbor Sarah Gress owns the North Carolina Crafts Gallery right down the street on the corner of West Main and West Weaver, I guess.
Yeah.
She is my primary caretaker of my animals when I'm not able to, when I either have to go out of town for work or I'm working at the restaurant. She's my top person. She comes over and feeds and hangs out with the animals. But as far as donations are concerned, if someone is in Carrboro and they wanted to contribute cash or a check and they didn't want to go the electronic route through my website, they can always donate at her location at the North Carolina Crafts Gallery, and then she lives right behind me, and so she just provides me those donations. So either way is great.
What a good friend.
She's great, and her little store is wonderful. She has the most wonderful local crafts and jewelry and coffee mugs. I'm a coffee fiend, and she has the most beautiful coffee mugs. But
and her prices, some things are more expensive, but some things are quite moderate. You can go in and get, I got that stained glass things for you. You can go in and get a present for a friend that's really nice without spending a whole lot of money. Yeah.
She has lots of stuff, and just artwork, some of the artwork.
Yeah.
I was like, Sarah, if I owned this place, I would have no money because everything would go to my house. And she's like, have you seen my house?
So it's KRESS Press?
GRESS, Sarah Gress. And she's the owner of the North Carolina Crafts Gallery in Carrboro. So she accepts donations for the sanctuary there. And again, she's my primary caretaker as well.
Oh, that's so nice to have somebody there.
She's wonderful.
Yeah, because you're doing this alone, and sometimes it's nice to have somebody if something comes up.
Absolutely, she's so dependable, and she has 2 rescued greyhound dogs who are very, very sweet. So she's very involved in the rescue community as well.
Yeah, so there is a rescue community.
There is, in fact, I should have consolidated a list of again, when Peter contacted me today from Critter Carnival, he had a list of all of the animal rescues that are going to be at this event on September the 14th, and some of them I had never heard of, and they're right here local, and some of them are, like Paws for Calls was one of them. There was some that were just for birds. There was,
There's one I know of in Hillsborough. I think it's still there for squirrels.
It's probably
Oh.
on their list.
Because my daughter had some baby squirrels in her driveway that must have fallen out.
Oh,
And she tried taking care of them herself, but wasn't sure what was the right thing. So she looked it up, and so I went with her to this woman. That was just last year, so I think she's still going. And she had a whole nice setup,
oh gosh.
but she was starting to expand. I think she was retiring and starting to expand.
That's great.
And yeah,
Well, see, this is exactly what we need. We need
Yeah.
people to start small. And you don't have to have $1 million in a huge a huge building and
No, she
outfit.
didn't.
You can start something small.
and she had really learned all the kind of food. She had it right down
Oh,
over
wow.
what nutrition she had a schedule, just like you would for a
Oh,
baby.
that's great.
It was, you know what I mean, this one needs this, and she had to listen. I was so impressed, and my daughter was too. It was really wonderful.
So what kind of certification do you need to be a wildlife rehab?
Oh, I don't know. I've never done any wildlife rehabbing before. I honestly don't know. That's an excellent question. I know I have had experience with one rehabber. There was one day my dog attacked a pregnant possum and killed the possum, but the babies were alive. And there was a woman that lived off of right by the Dean Dome, and I can't remember her name or what, and not even how I found her on the internet, but I took the baby possums there, and I had a conversation with her, and she did have to have some kind of certification, but I
Mhm.
don't know what it was. But that would be interesting to find out.
Yeah, because there's some wildlife sanctuaries around here. They might know what. So what would a wildlife rehabber do? You just take care of them in your home?
Taking baby squirrels.
Yeah.
And
Possums or birds or
There's a place called Claws that does a lot of
Yes.
that. They get possums and turkeys and ducks and turtles, and
right.
so if you find wildlife, they can rehab them for you. But
Yeah, that's I imagine if I were going to rehab a squirrel, I would need to know what to do, because especially if it's a little baby,
With babies,
they have to be
what
they have to be fed the
fed.
right. What do you even feed them out of, and what do you feed them, and how do
Yeah.
you keep them warm, and all of that.
Yeah.
So you have
And this woman who had the squirrel, she had some other, and I'm trying to think whether she had, was it some birds or was it a couple? She had a couple of other kinds of animals too, and I can't remember, but she had a shed and she had it fixed up really, really nicely. It was a big shed, and just everything just laid out so well. So where are we? We're talking about donations. You talked about, I don't want to get back to that. You talked about you'd like to grow, and to grow, you would need to, at some point, get another shed. You've got 3 acres, so if you could get more donations and things like that, then that would enable you to be able to do that.
Right. I definitely have the room, the property, the square footage to do that. Another barn with more fencing
Yeah.
would allow me to rescue more pigs. And of course, with more animals, you would probably have to start talking about getting volunteers and to help out with feeding
That's
and
it.
that
That's
type
what I
of
was going to
thing.
say. Some volunteers.
Right, and I do, of course. Sarah is, I
Yeah.
mentioned before, she comes over and helps me a lot, and I have another neighbor who does as well. And I've had a couple of groups come out and helped. There's an organization at UNC, the Vegans for Peace. They
I
have
love it.
they have a little student organization at UNC, and a group of those students came out and helped me spread gravel one day, which was a huge help. I want to say maybe about 8 or 10 students came out, and they were wonderful.
That would be like a great Girl Scout project
Yeah.
or Boy Scout project. And there's some group of women that used to get 1 or 2 big projects a year, kind of big projects, so that would be great since you have the heart.
Yeah.
And and you're building your skill. The other thing, I guess, that now that you're developing all these skills is some sort of education, like talking to some groups or.
You know, now that you mention that, one thing that I would like to do, and I've dabbled with on my website, is I have a blog, and I'm writing some children's stories about the animals.
Oh.
And I have, I think, 6 published right now, and I've been,
Really?
Oh.
well, when I say published to my blog on my website, not published in a book,
Okay.
which would be a huge goal of mine if I could ever do that, because I'm observing the animals all day, and I'm looking at, and I'm always thinking of, wow, what a great children's story, and what a great opportunity to teach love and compassion and sharing
Yes.
and acceptance and diversity and all of the things that we try to teach children today, to teach those qualities and those things that we want all children to grow up practicing. I can tell those stories through the animals and bring those things to light. I actually brought a little story that I wrote, but I don't.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you want. No, I'm not really good. I'm trying to get better. I've been a technical writer for many, many years, but that is very different from creative writing.
It is different, but this is good practice for you.
Well, again, they're about a page a piece, so I'll just read one. But
Please.
so what I'd like to do is these little short stories. I would eventually like to string them together into a larger publication.
These could be a chapter.
Right. So, and really the premise behind it all is Lester, the rooster. He's not only become a friend of the pigs, but he's become the events coordinator. He likes to have little activities for them. He is the wise one. When the pigs have a question or they're going through an issue or a problem, they go see Lester. And Lester has his little perch. He sits there on his rock, and he sits there all day, and he answers questions, and he gives them advice, and he keeps them in line. He's a male, but he's basically the mother of the pigs. So, but he took on the role of events coordinator or activity coordinator. So he's always planning things, and he's trying to teach lessons throughout the activities. It may be sharing or compassion, or he may see that they're bickering one day, and he says, you know what, I'm going to plan something so we can all learn a lesson from this. So he's very wise. He's a sage bird, and so I'm writing the stories in that kind of with that theme in mind. But I'm getting a little better, and I need to start really getting serious about it.
Definitely.
I do, because I would love to do it. I would love to do it, but
And there's such a need for that.
yeah.
You know, this is not a cutesy story. This is like so important, and so many kids have no exposure to real animals except maybe if they're lucky, the family has a dog or a cat or
Right.
something. But in terms of roosters and pigs and chickens, you know,
Yeah.
those kids are not. So read us at least that one
Oh,
story.
okay. Well, it's short. It's only a page long
We'll
here,
get to it.
or a little page. Okay, it's called An Unexpected Lesson in Love. So as the months passed, Lester the rooster took on the role of activity coordinator at the sanctuary. He planned games and events for the pigs. Sometimes they had oinking contests. Of course, Bobby always won because he had the loudest oink of everyone. Sometimes they had contests to see who could find the most interesting insect. Miss Gertie usually won that contest because she was smaller than the other pigs and could fit in tight places where bugs like to hide. As the cold winter months dragged on, the pigs got a little impatient with each other and sometimes bickered among themselves. Stop hoarding all the straw. It's my turn to sleep under the heat lamp. Get your cold snout off my back. With all the bickering, Lester decided to plan a new contest that would help the pigs be nicer to each other. Perched on the edge of the stall, he gathered all the pigs around and made his announcement. Gather around, herd. You have one day to do a good deed for one of your herd mates. You will present your good deed to the herd, and the pig with the most creative good deed will get a personal back scratch from me. The pigs loved back scratches. So they took the new challenge very seriously. They immediately started planning their good deeds, and by the next morning, the pigs were busy putting them into action. The pigs were very competitive, so naturally they tried to outdo each other. And of course, they had to make sure that everyone witnessed their acts of kindness. The following day, Lester banged his beak on the metal water bowl to get everyone's attention. Ding, ding, ding! Once the pigs were gathered around, he hopped up on his perch. Now is the time we've been waiting for. Each of you will share your good deed with the rest of the herd, and then we'll vote on a winner. One by one, the pigs told their stories of good deeds. Bobby yelled, "I cleared the ramp off for Miss Gertie so she wouldn't slip and fall." Pedro pushed his way up to the front. "Well, I nudged out a spot in the straw for Petunia so she could sleep directly under the heat lamp." And Stella blurted out, "Well, I gave Mandy a cool new stick to play with." With each story, the pigs oinked loudly and clapped their hooves in celebration. Then it was Lucy's turn to tell her story. She slowly bowed her head in shame because she didn't have a good deed to share. Lester looked down at her from his perch and demanded an explanation. "Lucy, why didn't you do a good deed for one of your herd mates? The other pigs have all shared their acts of kindness, and we're so proud of them. Why didn't you do your good deed?" Still looking down at the ground, Lucy replied softly, "I tried to think of something, but I just couldn't find anything to compare with your good deeds." She looked around shamefully at the other pigs. "Even after you fell asleep and I tucked you in and prayed over you, I still couldn't think of anything. I'm so sorry I disappointed all of you." Suddenly, each pig looked at Lucy in surprise. With ears perked up, Stella asked, "Lucy, you took us in at night and prayed for us every night after we go to sleep?" Lucy replied, "Yeah, every single night. I pray that God keeps you safe and healthy. I pray that you forget about your past lives when you were mistreated. I pray for peace in the herd. I pray that you'll love each other with all your hearts." Lucy seemed a little embarrassed at her admission. The pigs bowed their heads because they knew that Lucy deserved the reward. She performed her good deed from the kindness of her heart without seeking recognition or a reward of any kind. She did it out of love. And with that, Lester gave Lucy the best back scratch she had ever had, and the pigs took turns rubbing her feet and nibbling on her sweet ears while they secretly planned more good deeds for their herd mates.
Oh,
That one was a little longer than the other ones, but
Oh, that was so sweet.
that
Oh,
was a really
tearjerker.
sweet
oh
story.
gosh, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a wonderful book.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm a retired reading teacher, so I'm always looking for good stories. And that one was terrific. I'd love to share that with a bunch of second graders when I go back to volunteer.
Oh gosh, thank
Yeah.
you. Well, they're
Yeah.
all published on my website
Beautiful.
under the blog, and
Yeah,
thank you very
I'll
much.
definitely look it up.
And if you have any feedback how I can get better, please let me know.
I would.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, there are writers groups,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there must be children's writers groups, but that is such a different angle, I think, particularly, you know, and really fostering that kind of compassion and have children think about that. So, yeah, when you have more, come back and we'll have story hour. I just think stories. I'm a story lover, you know, and I just think that would be great. I mean it. We have
Yes.
some more chapters
It's
that we're
beautiful.
ready to read. Come back and we'll do part 2.
Okay, I will.
We're getting near to our closing time. We close about 5 of. And so we've been talking to Anna O'Neill, who runs a pig sanctuary out of the White Cross community just down the street from here, from where WCOM downtown, so it's about 5 or 6 miles from here. And a lot of you probably remember the pot-bellied pig craze, and some of those pigs were not the tiny pigs that were promised, and when they got to be 100, 150 pounds, people had to get rid of them, and sometimes they didn't get rid of them in a very humane way. And so right now Anna has 8 that she's rescued, plus some roosters, and If she gets enough donations, she could expand her little sanctuary. And so I also want to say that you can, if you want to find out more, you want to make a donation, go to her sanctuary. It's called Jenna, Jenna, Jenna and Friends, animalsanctuary.org. And also she let us know that on September 14th out at Southern Village, there's going to be a critter carnival that some nice fellow named Peter is getting together, and there's going to be all kinds of information about different sorts of animal sanctuaries and rescue things that there's, we live in. We're finding out in an area that's rich in these kind of helps for all kinds of animals, including farm animals. There's a Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge. So we're learning a lot, and we want to encourage Anna O'Neill in her writing career, and we look forward to having you back at some point.
Anna, do you encourage people to come and visit? Can they call and make an appointment?
Yeah, it's also my home.
Seeing is, yeah.
Yeah, it's also my home, so I definitely, to contact me in advance, and usually Saturdays is a good time for a visit. Absolutely, contact me on my website. There's a phone number and also my email address. Anyone is welcome to contact me and see when a good time is, and we'll set it up. Absolutely.
That's good.
That'd
Thank
be
you.
great. Thank you.
Great, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're delighted. Thank you so much.